Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. I would like to know, Maskala, how would you introduce yourself? How would you want abantu to identify you and say, this is who I am, this is the purpose I think I'm living for?
Yeah, it's what I think. I think it was a matter of choice for me, broadly belonging to the arts, to culture and heritage. And because of my very nature, I'm linked with the past. I'm linked with the ancestors and proud to be linked with them. Um, so it was a question of which genre I would excel in. Otherwise, you will see I started off perhaps acting, which was in the performance arts, the performances.
Yes.
I also was involved in writing, also in storytelling. But I had to make a choice because it was not going to work out well for me to be a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yes.
So I also felt that there are people who are not quite clear about our past, about our culture, to a point where you observe the tragedy of our people trying to be what they are not, running away from their identity, running away from their past, and linking with a past which is not their own. I'm one person who is not ashamed of our African past. If anything, I'm very proud of that past. But when I look at what is happening, I see a lot of people who are ashamed, who are joining the bandwagon of those who denigrate, despise, and even patronize our culture. I don't belong there, and I will never belong there, even if it means I remain alone. The last man standing, I will stand in defense of our past. The problem comes when we do not understand that past.
Yes.
And it is the reason why I seem to excel or chose to excel in documentation,
Yes.
documenting through writing, and then publishing books. I started off as a writer and then became a publisher, which was good for me. Otherwise, those people who don't share my views, who do not share my philosophy, who do not share my cosmology, we're not going to begin, because when you are a publisher, you decide what to publish.
Yes.
So if I had not ventured into publishing, probably my ideas would not have seen the light of day. Fortunately, as I worked with various organizations in the arts, culture, and the heritage sector, I got to acquire the skills of publishing. And so I've published a lot of books of my own. And I was also lucky in that I had newspapers, Chronicle, Sunday News, sometimes Herald, sometimes Sunday Mail, who gave me a platform to write. That was critically important for me. And next year, 2023, I'm hoping to celebrate 30 years of writing with Chronicle and Sunday News. So it gave me that opportunity to tell my story, and sometimes even my anger with people who are not proud of their own past, who are not proud of their philosophy, their beliefs. And again, and it became a platform where I would tell our own story regarding, especially our philosophy. What we do see being emphasized is cultural practices.
Yes.
Then the problem with that is you will miss out on that which informs those cultural practices. And then you will see things which are nonsensical. You will see a lot of wash posh. You will see a lot of hocus pocus, as some people will say.
Yeah.
No, it is because they do not see deep enough. All that they see are cultural practices, people dancing.
Yeah.
But you need to see what that dance represents. And I've said, unapologetically, even in our schools, tertiary institutions, the emphasis tends to be more on our cultural practices and not that which inspires, underpins, and informs those cultural practices. So this is why people will see something unlearned, something that is, it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Doesn't make sense because you are not going for the real stuff. You are going for manifestations of the bigger picture, which is about our beliefs, about our history, about our cosmology, about our thought. Because it is thought, it is cosmology, it is beliefs that make us believe or behave in a special way. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. In your answer, you speak about starting a publishing house and also being a writer. I suppose you're running away from being censored from your own ideas.
Yes.
Maybe do you remember your first book, your first publication ever that you say, this is something that is burning, this is going to be my first?
If you are talking about the first book that I wrote,
Yes.
before I became a publisher, I think the most serious was Igugu likaMthwakazi, which was in about 1993.
Yes.
That's when I started working on that book. Then the question is, what was special about 1993? 1993 was 100 years since the demise of the Ndebele state in 1893.
Yes.
I remember that very well. The late Vice President Joshua Nkomo was there, people like Tandazo Ndemangonya and others. We gathered at Katate, where there was that battle of Mbembes, as the whites would call it. So there we were commemorating, not celebrating, but commemorating that historical event. So I started then serializing some articles. It started in the Chronicle, but later it became Cultural Heritage and then was taken over by Sunday News. So from those stories, those articles that I wrote, then there was one lecturer, I think it was Dube, I can't remember his first name now, he's late.
Yes.
He decided to collect them and have them constituting a book, and it became quite a substantial book, which we launched in 1994. I still remember us launching it at Maketen Primary School, where Dr. Joshua Nkomo once again was the guest of honor, and then we had a lot of political figures and also a lot of writers. The late Isaac Mpofu was there. We had people like Barbara Nkala. They were all there. It was a lot of people, and was published by Mambo Press. So, but it's not that it was the first. Perhaps the first serious work, which was history. Yeah. And it's important to note that perhaps my launch pad was history. Yes. But now I seem to have moved away more and more from history to culture. Yes. And within that cultural field, I think I'm moving more and more away from just the cultural practices to dwell more on what I would term African thought. That is understanding the philosophy of the African people. Ubuntu, unu. What exactly do they mean by that? So which is their thought, which is their philosophy, which is their cosmology, which is their beliefs. Yes. That's where I am now. Yes. And even the writings that I'm engaged in, you see, I'm almost getting to the end of my writing career. Yes. I can feel it. Yes. Because many years ago I said, when you see me starting to write a series and then which will constitute a book, yeah, titled Journey to the Stars, yeah, then you know the end is nigh. Yes. Which is something quite rare. Very few people acknowledge that. I think now I'm getting to the end of what I ought to do. But not the end in terms of my life on this planet, no.
Yes.
But the end of this series, this writing, I may be moving into another area which has completely nothing to do with writing, but which I consider to be part of my mission on this planet, because I believe there is a mission. And last year, as you can see, the shields, these shields, trophies in front of me, I could clearly see that now we are nearing the end of a certain chapter. We are about to embark on a new chapter. All these things came largely last year, and it didn't come to me as a surprise. So I'm more and more moving towards spirituality. In other words, going deeper and deeper into understanding what I've termed ancient African science.
All right.
And those who are familiar with my writings and listen to the program, Amafa Etu, I have started researching what I initially thought would be a researching witchcraft. But I quickly realized, no, witchcraft can't be a standalone. What is critically important for me, which is what I always wanted to deal with, was ancient African science. Both of them in our language are abatagati. And that is a very positive term. I know some people don't understand what that term means.
Yes.
Tagati comes from the word tagata. And to taga, rather than to tagata, to taga. Utaga means putting together. Right, composing something that will have a life, something that will influence something. That is ugutaga. Then the people who practice, who are skilled to do that, are abatagati. And the term umtagati is not restricted to what in English you will call witches. No, it's not correct. A traditional healer is umtagati. A motor mechanic is umtagati. It's somebody who possesses mechanical skills that are unique. He's a cut above the rest. Yes, you have many motor mechanics, but this particular one is unique. Umtagati in our language. So umtagati doesn't mean anything negative. No, it's very positive. But the word that they ought to be using is umkunkuli. That one, because he uses the dark side of things. Bahambe usuku. You know our ingoma is chigiji. Because the kind of science that they practice is at night. I'm sure you will have read about this man who came from Pinga, and then their craft, which we are told is a winnowing basket. I don't know, they quarreled there, they dropped the fellow, he landed at some place, Makwekwe Township in Bulawayo. We'll talk about the township. So that was Makwekwe Township. So what is of interest to me is why, the question why, not the what and not just the what and when, but why. Where is the energy? We know from science, and by the way, I've that science background. I was a science teacher, secondary science school teacher, so I understand certain principles. So I know that this on its own will not leave the tape or the ground. You need energy. So if there are people who fly, surely they are making use of energy. And don't we need fossil fuels and have something beyond them? We know fossil fuels perhaps are finite. Don't we need transport? So we need to be learning from this ancient African science how they are making use of energy to fly from Binga, to get here, to fly from Gutu, to get to Gokwe. I'm choosing those two because I heard about a story where somebody was flying, or a group of them. Generally, these witches, I think, move in groups. So they had moved with one who was expecting. I don't know how that one became a liability to them. So they dropped the fellow. And then the head boy in Gokwe, in the bush. Like when he is a naked woman, she has just delivered.
Yeah.
But again, I want to know, why did they drop her? Because she is pregnant.
Yeah.
What was the problem?
Yeah.
If the winnowing basket can carry 5, 6, 7 women, why doesn't it carry this one who is pregnant?
Yeah.
In which way did she compromise the movement of that craft? That's what we want to know. We need to be investigating these things, not just how they were flying. Yeah. Using what energy? That's what we want, so that we may perhaps tap into the same energy. Yeah. We know that there was energy. That one I have no doubt about. Yeah. I know. If you look at the Egypt, the history of Egypt, the pyramids, some of them have these huge doors, yeah, but with a finger you can move the door. Transport is an issue for us. We want to understand. Yeah. Some of those 50-ton blocks of rocks, yeah, were taken from very far. Yeah. How did they bring them? I've written about Stonehenge, yeah, which was another journey to Stonehenge. And we know that some of the rocks came not from England, but from Wales. Yeah. How did they manage to transport those huge blocks of stone and lift them high up there? That's energy. Yes. And the tendency is to think we are cleverer. And I've said it is because of this linear perception of progression of knowledge. Yes. We think we are at the peak. I doubt very much. There are people who knew something that we don't know, who understood something that we don't understand, people who tapped into a certain energy that we are not able to tap into. People who were strongly linked with this science and also linking with the heavens, the stars. Yes. And as I said, I hope I said it, that I will soon be embarking on a book, Journey to the Stars. Yes. Because I've looked at various aspects of African thought, African cultural practices, and most of them seem to point to the stars. Ultimately, we are told, or Africans tell us, we are going to be headed towards a star. Yes. So what is the African conceptualization of a star? I want to understand that. And in any case, we need to acknowledge that the stars, the heavens, if we want to call them, influence our actions, our activities, whether cultural, agricultural, here on earth, day and night. Who decides it is day and it is night? Yes. It's movement of celestial bodies. Yes. Who decides now it is planting time, it's hoeing time? It is the heavens once again. You will see this Pleiades, Isilimela. These are a group of stars which begin appearing in June. Yes. That is the star for us in Southern Africa. That will mark it by September, the beginning of a new year. Yes. So a lot of activities, even those who believe in horoscope, if you were born such time, I was born, I'm told, on the 10th of July, so I'm Scorpion, I hope I'm right. Yeah. Or is it Cancer, not Scorpion? Yeah. Cancer. Yeah. So what does it mean? So the time when you are born is also, because you are born at a certain time and you have positions of the various stars, that seems to influence the kind of person that you are going to be, your spiritual endowment and many other considerations. Yes. Because of the position of these stars. Stonehenge is about capturing the movement of the sun. When is the shortest night? 21st of June, we are told, for us in Southern Africa, is the shortest day. Yes. We've just gone through that. And then December, perhaps about 22nd, 23rd, would be the longest day. So you see, we cannot escape from the stars. That's what matters. And these stars are in constant motion, characterized by rhythm. So they come, they go. Some, they have different cycles. One will take 60 years to complete its cycle. The Dogon whose culture I like to follow, because it represents very ancient African culture. So you will see there is a star, I think they call it the dog star, which they saw ahead of NASA, the American Space Aeronautics, something like that. Yes. So they have been following that star, and it takes 60 years to make its cycle. So this cyclicality is very, very important. And this is why I want to end there with that story, the rhythm. Everything has got that rhythm. And I was writing one article a few days ago. I said, I went to school, I was teaching the reproductive system, yes. My pupils passed, I was a good teacher, but I didn't appreciate the broader picture of the secular design. That all these things that I was teaching these pupils about, all of them share a common secular design. And that is the design which is characteristic of the entire universe. When they tell you they've just discovered new planets, don't ask what shape they are. We know they will be secular. Yes. So this secularity is very important. And Africans have always tried to replicate the heavens on earth. If you look at our architecture, hard architecture, our built environment, it displays that secular pattern. Even our artifacts. This is why I said this particular shield was well designed. Yes. And with the African mind in question. You see, there is no right angle here. There's nothing. There's nothing rectangular. It's all secular. And this is the characteristic of the entire universe. Africans knew that, and this is what they produced.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be coming back talking about some of the practices in our culture and the meanings that have been derived. And then we'll also go on and talk about Ubulawayo as a city. We'll be back.